G'day folks, and welcome to Great Chesterford Junction Model Railway, and this is the update for October 2022. When I left you last time, I think I was still working on my tunnel area, which sort of connects Bamford and Great Chesterford Junction scenically, I suppose, and I just got to the stage where it was just the bare polystyrene there and hadn't really been developed. In the meantime, I released a little running session teaser, if you like, to sort of show what it looks like with some scenery on it. So we might have a look at that area there, because that's what I've been working on, and we'll have a look at that now and explain the process of how I got to where it is now. Even though it's not finished, there's still things to do on there, but we'll have a look at that now. We'll go over. Well, as you can see now, it's all covered in trees, and I'll take you over so we can have a bit of a closer look and explain a few things. So we go from the bottom of the hill, which is all treed now, and then we've worked our way up to the top of the hill, and it's got a lot of trees on it now. You'll also notice there's what we'd call undergrowth, I suppose. That's not complete yet, and it's just got down to this area here. I got a bit sick of making trees and undergrowth after a while, so I've just taken a bit of a spell from that. But most of these trees that you'll see here up the back here are all just made using what I call the bottle brush method, which is string laid between two pieces of wire, and then the wire is twisted in the drill to form like a bottle brush, and then the string is teased and whatever, and cut to shape, and then flocking's added to those later on. Now when we get over to close to the wall here, over especially down here where the trees are butted up right against the wall, they're actually half trees, so they're split along their length, so that they sit flat against the background, so you can get the tree up closer to the background, and that worked out rather well. And the same applies to these little trees going down the bank. Of course, before any trees go on, this whole area had been covered with a skin of plaster, and the way I do my plaster of Paris over the polystyrene is I make a mixture up. Obviously it's just the plaster and water, but to the mixture I add burnt sienna acrylic paints to darken it up, and I also add a slug of PVA to bind it all together a bit better. So you put a skin of it all over the area here, and I'll put up some pictures of it in that sort of state, and it looks pretty rough and pretty ordinary. Once the plaster has dried, I then make up a wash of black and burnt sienna again, because this dries sort of, what would you say, a peachy sort of colour. So I use the washes to dribble over it to sort of darken the area up, so that where you get any exposed pieces here where the static grass hasn't been applied, it looks more natural that way, instead of having to go in and try and colour it willy-nilly and getting in between bits of static grass and everything. It's already done. So it looks, as I say, pretty ordinary when you first do it, but the ground is not white, and I think if you just did plaster of Paris on its own and then tried to add colour to it, if you get a chip in the plaster or something, you see a white piece revealed. Whereas if you've got the colour in the plaster itself, you can chip it or damage it or whatever, and it still looks okay. Or you can patch it up if you want to, but yeah. So that's how I do it. And that's all before static grass goes on, and undergrowth and trees and all that sort of thing. Now when it came to these foreground trees, you can see that they've got trunks on them. And I should mention about the background trees, they were pushed down into the scenery without pretty much a trunk on them, because you can't see the trunks anyway, so I couldn't see the point of putting trunks on something that you can't see. But these foreground trees were made using a different method. They are twigs that I've picked up from my local area, and also some that I picked up when I was out one day. And I've basically chosen a twig which I think would make a suitable trunk, and then I've broken off smaller twigs and glued them to the trunk with a hot glue gun at the appropriate angle to form an armature for a tree, if you like. And then that armature was covered with polyfibre in various places to sort of bridge the gaps between the branches, and then it was sprayed brown, and then flocking was added over the top to create these trees that you see here. And I think they've turned out reasonably well. So we can zoom in a bit and have a look at one. Once I'd finished the tree, I rubbed some chalk into the trunk and then rubbed it off with my fingers to sort of lighten them up. And it also helps to show the texture a bit. The undergrowth here is made with polyfibre. You can get polyfibre that comes in like a flat sheet and would be used possibly in lounge cushions or something like that. And I just tear off in a regular shape, tease it out a bit, spray it brown, and then add various bits of some static grass actually is added to it, and some flocking to achieve this sort of very rough effect. And they can be made up very quickly and added on, all various shapes and sizes there. Just to give you an idea of the size of these things, the background trees here are about 140 to 150 millimeters. The ones at the front here, the smaller ones, are about 100 millimeters. And just to give you an idea of the scale of it, I've just put a little bloke in there under the tree. You can see how he compares to the size of the tree. We'll just put him in there and have a quick look at him. Yeah, so even the small trees are quite big compared to the average tree that you can buy. And you know, when you look at good sized trees that you can buy for your model railway, they're really quite expensive. I've made roughly 22 trees here, and that would be a considerable amount of money if you had to buy them all at that sort of size. Plus you get artistic control over what you're going to make. This is our scenery join here. This line across here, this is the removable and this is the fixed scenery. And I was sort of mentioning that on platform 1, and one of my fellow members on there, Pete, suggested that I put a post and rail fence across there, which I think is a great idea. And I have to agree with him. It would effectively hide the join, because once you put the fence in, you put some more undergrowth and everything, and I think basically it will disappear. So the method I use for the fence, and this is one that I've got made up. It's not completely finished yet, but you can get the general idea there. So this is made using the card method, which is I designed the fence on LibreOffice Draw, printed out, and then I cut out the white areas between the horizontal rails, and then I add some posts which are made from grey card. I cut strips of grey card and then add them on with PVA, and then the whole lot's painted and obviously distressed and all that sort of thing eventually to make it look like a weathered fence. And the beauty of this method is that these fences not only bend in that way, like that, but you can take it like that and do that, and it will start to follow the contours of the land. So that's the big bonus with it. That's what you don't get with a plastic fence. And I mean, if you don't want to make your own, Justin at Scale Model Scenery's got laser cut kits, pretty much exactly the same as this. Probably, well, they'd be better than this, but yeah. So you can get them from Justin if you need them. So yeah, and yeah, very cheap to make and easy to install. Now, talking about taking a break from scenery, I mean, I had started work on this background here in the last episode, but I've actually almost completed that now. And one of the things that I had to do here was fit in a section here into the actual wall. That wasn't there before, so I've added that section in and completed that. And I've got down to, just point the camera in the right direction, this point here. This was the back scene that was supplied in the railway modeller a few months back. And then I think I mentioned before that I've started bringing my own back scenes that I'd found elsewhere up to meet that and tried to blend them in. So I've done that with, on the joins here I've put some overlapping trees. On the join here in the wall, you can probably see the join up there. I started bringing that same scene onto this piece here and using foreground trees to sort of blur the or hide the any obvious signs of two different backgrounds. But the interesting thing probably for you folks here is that this is the point where I started using two, or if you count the trees, three separate backgrounds. This background here is of a much darker scene from around the corner there, and this background here belongs to the one that I started using here, and I've cut out part of this background along the tops of the houses and some of the trees, etc., and laid that over the top of this background here, because the colouring almost matches. It's very similar, and by the time you put a tree or a building in front of it, it's going to be very hard to distinguish the difference between the two. Now as we move around over to here, that original background is still up there, and then I've cut out the other one and laid it over here to sort of start coming up close to this tree line here. So actually two backgrounds there, folks. I think it works reasonably well. And then around here we've got some more trees. I've got to get some more trees printed to add on as well. But yeah, so I was quite happy with that. And on the other end of Bamford, up near the other end of the station there, I thought I was sort of working out the layout for Bamford, and I thought, I wonder how it would look if I had sort of buildings down that end. So I had an old background that I'd printed, and it was actually a reject because it was too dark, and I thought I would cut that out. It's all buildings. I thought I would cut that out and just lay it over the background with some blue tack, just to see what it looks like. And I was quite pleased with the result, and I thought, well, maybe I can do some low relief buildings in that area and sort of suggest that the town is actually down there. And when we get up to this area here around the signal box area, we'll be working up to a hill that actually grows towards the end of the layout there, up this far end. And the idea at the moment is to do a ruined castle up here somewhere. So yeah, that's all in the future though. You've probably noticed already that I've put cover plates on here. These are all made out of ply. There's 3 of them actually, and they will be the base for removable scenery over the back here where the hill will go. And it has to be removable because there's tracks under there that need to be accessed from time to time. And it's the same policy as this piece here. Once the hill comes off to the left there, this can come off and I can get access to my mainline tracks. So yeah, it's a bit more work to do that sort of thing, but it's I think very necessary, because once you start covering things up permanently, you can bet your bottom dollar that something will go wrong in that area. Well folks, that's about all I've got for you at the moment, so I'll leave you with it, and until I see you next time. So take care. Cheers. Gourmet.